Welcome to my spoiler-filled review of Stranger Things Season 3. I've noticed getting into the more TV show reviewing, prepping for the wave of fantasy adaptations, that when I do spoiler-free stuff, I don't have a whole lot to say. It's hard to review a show or a movie without getting into spoilers. Like, you could do it, but I don't feel like there's a lot you can say of substance. So if you want my quickie spoiler-free review of Stranger Things Season 3, I thought it was shot really well. The story was better than Season 2, not as good as Season 1. The acting was about the acting level we've seen. We got to see more from Hopper in a more greater range, as well as Winona Ryder was finally given more to do than just scream and cry about Will, and I liked all that. It was good. It was well worth watching, and I think the setup and payoff of having all this stuff come back in once again is not completely worn out. It felt earned one more time, though I really don't know where they're going to go for Season 4, which apparently will be the last season from what I'm hearing online. So that's great. Moving on to the spoiler-filled section, because I'm sorry, it's been out for a while, and I would much rather talk about spoilers here. And this goes out to my boy Gabriel, who bugged me to do this in the live stream. I'm doing it for you, although I know by saying that, I'm welcoming people to just continually bombard me asking me to review things. But you've been amazing, and you're a big supporter of fantasy news, so let's just do it for you here. Jumping on in. So the real standouts for me here right away, and I want to talk about, are Billy and Hopper. I really liked Billy's kind of redemption and corruption arc happening simultaneously. He's always been a jerk, but he's never been full-on murderer. He went full-on murderer because of the corruption, but was then redeemed at the end there. And I honestly wasn't thinking they could pull off the redemption. I was like, Billy sucks. Billy really sucks, but I feel like the actor is talented enough that even at Billy's most brutal moments, there was this like fear under the surface. These tinges of the rage is probably coming from a sense of insecurity, a sense of fear, and just having that ending couple of moments and scenes with him being truly spectacular. And of course, if you want a redemption and easily earn it, you go for the sacrifice, and he did his sacrifice. And while that scene as a whole visually was probably the weakest, the idea is great and it was colorful, but the visual effects not the most solid there, because they lost the advantage of having all the VFX in dark, which a lot of the things in Stranger Things really rely on that, because they do have some budgetary constraints, so they really make that darker toned lighting very prevalent. And with all those fireworks going off, that pretty much went away, and the whole mall sequence didn't entirely hold up visually. And the other standout performance for me was Hopper. I really liked what we saw from, what's his name? I want to say David. Let's just say the actor's name's David and go with there. I really liked his kind of wider range we got here. He's always been a fan favorite. Hopper's just fantastic as the local sheriff arc stereotype, but he brings something new to it, something that's more relatable and more caring than a lot of the sheriffs you get that are centered to a TV show like this. And seeing him take on this more fatherly, patriarchal role and handle it so poorly, but sincerely try so hard, was magnificent. I really, that was probably some of the most wholesome television I've seen recently. Threatening a child, though, I can totally get behind that. I can get behind him threatening a child. And as I mentioned in the spoiler-free part, and I do want to expand on, finally, Winona Ryder is not just screaming and looking after Will. It's more about her going off with Hopper and getting involved with this Russian scientist setup that really was great. I like seeing Winona Ryder have a range and not just go, Will! For a season or two of television. And she proves she can bring it. She doesn't have to rely on high emotion to hide any weaknesses in her own acting. No, she just was a solid actress in this season. Good on you, Winona. It's good to see you return to a standard you were previously constrained from being at, because I feel like the script really did hold her back in season 1 and 2, because I've always had the opinion that really high emotion in acting, and the acting I've done in my life has kind of backed up this idea, is really easy to do. It's easier to be in certain emotions at this higher level than to be more subtle and playful with what you're given, and I liked that opportunity given to this actress. Now, I briefly touched on the Russian storyline, which I didn't want to mention in the spoiler-free section because if I say Russians are involved, someone's going to scream spoiler, even though it's in the first 4 seconds of the freaking new season, but still. We now have Russians invading the small town, which feels like such a hokey, campy 80s idea, and it worked out beautifully. I didn't think it would, but honestly, even the more completely unbelievable that would not happen, you would be dead moments just kind of worked, because Stranger Things went more in the comedic route than they ever have before. They kind of just leaned into the goofiness of the 80s camp that certainly is there, and I think it paid off. I know not everyone I've seen online liked how the kids managed to infiltrate a Russian base for hours and not be detected, but I just took it as the why the hell not writing that it obviously was. We also have the most cliche 80s like trope ever in the corrupt local mayor and him being brought down, which I really liked. Seeing the guy from Princess Bride, I forget his name, come back and give this like skeezy sleazeball performance was really wonderful. You know, when we really seen him in Princess Bride, I've been wondering what he's been up to. I looked it up. He's been involved in the Saw franchise, a franchise I have no interest in looking into at all. So good for him for having that big fat paycheck, I'm sure, but I'm glad to see him back into a more, you know, not torture porn franchise. But there was like 3 separate main storylines that, again, Stranger Things managed to pull them all together when it felt kind of like, okay, we all know this is going to converge, but it converged in a way where I didn't hate it. You know, it's just to be expected. It's a formula for Stranger Things, and it worked out. Nancy had a nice storyline. I enjoyed her kind of feminism arc and how it wasn't over the top. It was certainly believable. I've met people who act like that in my life, but the only person I felt bad for was her boyfriend named Jonathan. Jonathan, her boyfriend, had nothing to do all season except kind of badger Nancy and then be redeemed with her. And Elle had more growth, more everything. I'm looking forward to see the future of that character, though this kind of just did feel like a transition season for Elle, her slightly coming out of her shell more, becoming more of an actual kid. Great, but I'm more interested in the last season with her, what they'll really end it with. And I also want to just mention that the girl who did Mad Max did a really good job acting. For all the child actors, she's definitely in the upper tier for performances, because some of those kids are still grading me, but she was believable, especially with the abuse stuff for their brother. Pulled it off quite well. So all around, better season than season 2. I think that's pretty much universally accepted, especially with season 2 having one episode that was just flat out bad. Season 3 just being solid all the way through really was a delight to see. I'll give Stranger Things season 3 a delightful to watch out of 10. I don't think it's as good as season 1 though, and I'll stick by that, because season 1 was so original, was so enjoyable as a whole in concept, and really took advantage of this 80s nostalgia wave like nothing else had at the time. And it's, you know, it pulled from so many influences that I personally love. I really just can't see Stranger Things topping season 1 for me, because season 1 was so original, and every season from there will not get as much credit for originality from me. As a season, I mean. But they pulled it off. I had a lot of like gut bad instincts about Stranger Things, honestly, after season 2. I thought season 2 was a pretty significant step down from 1, but 3 stepped back up, put it back into, you know, full gear, and we're going ahead, and now I can officially say I'm looking forward and have faith for season 4. Gotta have faith for faith for faith. That song's been in my head for days. But what did you think of Stranger Things season 3? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you disliked it, thought it was crap, hit that dislike button. But be sure to leave me your thoughts why in the comments. I enjoy reading through them and having a good time with you all. And subscribe if you want to see more of my face talking about books and fantasy type TV shows exclusively, only them, in the future. Have a good one, y'all. Peace. Don't worry. I know some people are worried that I'm pulling away from books completely. That's not a thing. I'm just legitimately practicing for when the fantasy shows start coming out, because you get better as a reviewer the more you review things from the genre, better at spotting and the medium transition for fantasy, you know, going from books to TV. I need to practice that as well. So that's what this is. There is a review of multiple books coming very soon. That's happening. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're still good. I promise. Peace. And I do want to give a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Rusty Lower. I think that's how you say it. Did I give Giuliano Nijas Dutra? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Your shout out? I don't think I did. So shout out for you, maybe a second one. I don't know, maybe a second, maybe it's not. For you as well. And shout out Rusty, which, love your name. Thank you. Thank you guys for being such good supporters. And I've had a recent spike in patrons. I appreciate it. More writing coming, I can't promise soon, but in the future. Bye!